The Galactic Council had known about Earth for thousands of years. Their scientists had studied it from far away and marked it in their records as a Class 7 Deathworld. This was not a good thing. A Deathworld was a planet so dangerous that most life forms could not survive there. Earth was one of the worst. The planet had gravity that would crush the bones of many alien species. Its atmosphere was filled with oxygen, a gas so reactive that it slowly destroyed metal and flesh alike. The ground itself moved and shook, splitting open without warning. Volcanoes spat fire into the sky. The weather changed from burning heat to freezing cold. And everywhere, in every corner of that terrible world, predators hunted and killed. When the Council learned that intelligent life had evolved on Earth, they were surprised but not shocked. Deathworlds sometimes produce thinking beings. These creatures were always tough, always dangerous. The harsh conditions of their home planets made them into survivors. But when humans finally built ships and flew into space, the Council was confused. They had expected monsters. They had expected armored beasts with claws and fangs and poison. Instead, they found creatures that looked soft. Humans had no shells to protect them. They had no sharp claws. Their teeth were small and flat. Their skin was thin and easily cut. Ambassador Cathral of the Veluxi hegemony studied the reports about humans with great interest. He was an old and respected member of the Council, and his species was proud of their Deathworld origins. The Veluxi had evolved on a planet of extreme temperatures and toxic air. Their bodies were covered in thick armor made of chitin, like the shell of an insect. They could survive in the vacuum of space for short periods. They considered themselves among the toughest beings in the galaxy. Every year, Cathral helped organize the Deathworld Summit. This was a special gathering where species from the harshest planets came together. They shared stories of survival. They showed off their natural abilities. They competed in tests of strength and endurance. It was a point of pride to attend. Only 23 species had earned the right to be there. One day, Cathral stood before the Council and made a proposal. "The humans have been in space for nearly a century now," he said. His voice clicked and buzzed as he spoke. "They come from a Class 7 Deathworld. By our own rules, they should be invited to the summit." The other Council members shifted in their seats. Some looked uncertain. "They seem weak," said one delegate, a massive creature covered in scales. "I have seen images of them. They have no natural weapons." "Exactly," Cathral replied. There was amusement in his voice. "Let them come. Let them see what real Deathworlders look like. It will be educational for them. Perhaps they will learn some humility." Laughter spread through the chamber. The sound echoed off the walls. Every delegate there knew what Cathral meant. The humans would arrive at the summit expecting to be equals. Instead, they would find themselves surrounded by the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. They would realize how small and fragile they truly were. The invitation was sent. 3 months later, a human ship arrived at the summit location. It was a small vessel, simple in design. Nothing about it suggested power or threat. The gathered delegates watched it land with expressions of bored curiosity. The ship's door opened, and 12 humans walked out. Their leader was a woman named Commander Sarah Chun. She was shorter than average for her species, with black hair cut close to her head and dark eyes that moved constantly, taking in everything around her. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations except a small flag on her shoulder. When she stepped onto the landing platform, she smiled. Several delegates reached for their weapons. The smile showed her teeth, and teeth meant threat in most galactic cultures. But then they remembered that humans used this expression as a greeting. It was strange and unsettling, but not an attack. Cathral walked forward to meet her. He stood nearly 2 meters tall, and his armored body gleamed under the lights. His eyes, compound like an insect's, studied her carefully. "Commander Chun," he said, "welcome to the Deathworld Summit. We are honored by your presence." The words were polite, but his tone carried a different message. "You do not belong here. You are not our equal. You are here to learn your place." If Commander Chen noticed the insult, she did not show it. "Thank you, Ambassador," she replied. Her voice was warm and friendly. "We are grateful for the invitation. My people have been looking forward to this for a long time." "I am sure you have," Kethril said. "Come, let me introduce you to the other delegates." He led her and her team into the main hall. The space was enormous, built to hold creatures of many different sizes. Some delegates were small and quick. Others were massive, taking up entire corners of the room. All of them turned to look at the humans. Commander Chun walked among them without fear. She shook hands with those who had hands. She bowed to those who did not. She asked questions about their home planets and listened to the answers with what seemed like genuine interest. The Crixathi delegate, a reptile with the ability to regrow lost limbs, looked down at her with cold eyes. "Your species is young," he said. "Very young. How long have you been in space?" "About 90 years, Chun answered. 90 years. The Crixathi made a sound like grinding stones. It was laughter. "My people have traveled to stars for 90,000. "Then we have much to learn from you," Chun said. She smiled again. "I hope you will be patient with us." The Crixathi turned away, dismissing her. Similar conversations happened throughout the evening. Every species there made sure the humans understood their place. They spoke of ancient histories, of survival against impossible odds, of abilities that humans could not match. Through it all, Commander Chun remained calm and polite. She agreed that humans were new to space. She admitted that her species had no natural armor, no venom, no ability to survive in vacuum. She asked questions and took notes and thanked everyone for their wisdom. By the end of the first night, every delegate at the summit had reached the same conclusion. The humans were exactly what they appeared to be: soft, fragile, and completely outmatched. Kethril watched Commander Chen lead her team to their quarters. He felt satisfied. Tomorrow, the demonstrations would begin. The humans would see what real Deathworlders could do. They would understand the gap between their species and true survivors. He had no idea how wrong he was. The second day of the summit began with the traditional demonstrations. Each species would show the others what made them special. They would display the abilities that helped their ancestors survive on worlds that should have killed them. This was always the most exciting part of the summit. Delegates took great pride in showing off. Competitions were unofficial, but real. Everyone wanted to prove that their species was the toughest, the most dangerous, the most worthy of respect. The Crixathi went first. Their representative, a large male with dark green scales, stepped into the center of the demonstration area. Without warning, he pulled a blade from his belt and cut off his own arm. Several of the human delegates made sounds of shock. Blue blood poured from the wound and splashed onto the floor. The Crixathi held up the severed limb and tossed it aside. Then, slowly, a new arm began to grow. The flesh bubbled and stretched. Bone formed, then muscle, then scales. Within 1 hour, the arm was complete. The Crixathi flexed his new fingers and smiled at the audience. "Regeneration," he announced proudly. "Any wound that does not kill us makes us stronger. We cannot be crippled. We cannot be made helpless." The humans clapped politely. Commander Chun leaned forward in her seat, watching with what looked like genuine interest. "How many times can you regenerate the same limb?" She asked. The question surprised the Crixathi. Most species simply stared in fear or admiration. They did not ask technical questions. "As many times as needed," he answered. There is no limit. Chun nodded and wrote something in a small notebook. The Krixathi felt oddly unsettled by her calm reaction. He had expected more. Next came the still, a species of serpent-like beings. Their bodies were covered in scales that shifted colors in the light. Their eyes were large and golden, without pupils. When they opened their mouths, long fangs dripped with clear liquid. The stall representative slithered to a table where a block of metal sat. The metal was a synthetic alloy, one of the strongest materials known to galactic science. The stall opened its mouth and let a single drop of venom fall onto the block. The metal began to dissolve. It bubbled and hissed. Smoke rose from the surface. Within seconds, a hole had formed. Within a minute, the entire block was reduced to a puddle of liquid. "Our venom," the stale said, its voice a soft hiss, "can destroy almost any substance. One bite means certain death. There is no cure, no treatment. Those who face us have only one choice: run." Again, the humans applauded. Again, Commander Chen asked questions. "What is the chemical composition? Is it a protein-based toxin or something else?" The stall stared at her. No one had ever asked about the chemistry before. Prey did not ask how they would die. They simply feared. "It is complex," the stall answered slowly. "Many components working together." "Fascinating," Chun said, and she meant it. "We have some venomous species on Earth, but nothing this powerful. Thank you for sharing." The demonstrations continued. The Alarim, beings of living crystal, showed their ability to absorb radiation that would kill any organic life. They stood in a chamber flooded with enough energy to melt steel and emerged without a scratch. The Vorath, massive four-armed creatures, lifted weights that would crush most species flat. The Telkani showed their ability to see in complete darkness and hear sounds that traveled through solid rock. Each species displayed something remarkable. Each one proved why they deserved to be called Deathworlders. And through it all, the humans watched and listened and took notes. When the Veluxi's turn came, Ambassador Kethril stepped forward personally. He wanted to make sure the humans understood his species' power. "The Veluxi evolved on a world of extremes," he announced. "Our ancestors survived temperatures that ranged from boiling to freezing in a single day. Our atmosphere was thin and toxic. But our greatest adaptation is this." He walked to an airlock that led to open space. Without putting on any protective equipment, he stepped inside. The inner door closed. Then the outer door opened. The void of space rushed in. There was no air, no pressure, no warmth. Temperatures dropped to nearly absolute zero. Radiation from the nearby star pounded against exposed surfaces. Kethril stood in the vacuum for 30 standard minutes. His body did not freeze. His blood did not boil. His lungs did not explode. When he finally returned through the airlock, he was tired but unharmed. Commander Chun was waiting with a glass of water. "That must be disorienting," she said, offering him the drink. "The pressure change alone would be incredibly stressful. Are you feeling all right?" Kethril stared at her. He had just survived naked exposure to space, something that would have killed nearly any other organic being. And this soft creature was worried about his comfort. "I am fine," he said stiffly. "We adapt. It is what Deathworlders do." "Of course," Chun said, nodding. "I apologize if I seemed concerned. I simply wanted to make sure you had what you needed." Her kindness was more unsettling than fear would have been. Kethril took the water and drank it quickly. "And what will your species demonstrate?" he asked. There was a challenge in his voice. "We have seen what we can do. Now it is your turn." The other delegates turned to watch. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The humans had seen 23 species display incredible abilities. Now they would have to admit they had nothing to match. Commander Chun looked back at her team. Something passed between them, a quick exchange of glances that Kethril could not read. Then she turned back to him. "We are still deciding," she said. "We have several options, but we want to make sure we choose something appropriate." Laughter rippled through the hall. The humans were stalling. They had nothing. This confirmed what everyone believed. "Tomorrow we hold the endurance trials," Kethril said. "Perhaps you will find something to contribute there. The trials test how long a species can survive under difficult conditions. Speed, strength, resilience. All are tested. We would be honored to participate," Chun replied. She was still smiling, still calm, still showing those small, flat teeth. "Thank you for your patience with us, Ambassador. We know we are the youngest species here, but we learn quickly." Kethril made a sound of dismissal. "We will see." He walked away, already forgetting the conversation. The humans were not worth his attention. They were guests out of politeness, nothing more. Tomorrow, the trials would prove what everyone already knew. Commander Chun watched him go. Her smile did not fade. If anything, it grew slightly wider. "They really have no idea," Torres said quietly, standing beside her. "No," Chun agreed. "They really do not." She looked around the hall at the gathered species. They were all impressive in their own ways. Regeneration, venom, radiation resistance, survival in vacuum. These were remarkable abilities, evolved over millions of years on planets that tried to kill everything on them. But they were missing something. They thought being a Deathworlder meant having natural weapons and armor. They measured strength by what a body could do on its own. They had never met a species that survived by thinking, by planning, by refusing to give up no matter how bad things got. They had never met humans. "Get some rest," Chun told her team. "Tomorrow is going to be interesting." The endurance trials were the heart of the summit. Every delegate looked forward to them. This was where species truly proved their worth. Demonstrations showed what a body could do. The trial showed what a spirit could endure. The day began with several smaller challenges. There were tests of extreme temperature. Delegates stood in chambers that ranged from burning hot to freezing cold. They measured how long each species could survive. There were tests of toxic atmosphere. Delegates breathed poisonous gases until their bodies forced them to stop. There were tests of pressure, of radiation, of starvation. The humans politely declined most of these events. "We do not want to interfere with the competition," Commander Chun explained. "We are here to observe and learn." These trials seemed designed for species with different abilities than ours. The other delegates nodded knowingly. The humans were making excuses. They knew they could not compete. Better to step aside than to be embarrassed. "Very wise," the Crixusy representative said. His tone was mocking. "Sometimes it is better to know one's limits." "Indeed," Chun agreed. "We try to know ourselves well." By midday, the smaller trials were complete. Rankings had been established. The Olorim won the radiation test easily. The Stahl dominated the toxin challenge. The Veloxy proved superior in the vacuum and pressure trials. Everyone performed as expected. Then came the final trial. The persistence hunt. This was the oldest tradition of the summit. It dated back to the very first gathering, when the founding species had wanted to test something more than physical ability. They wanted to test will, determination, the refusal to give up. The rules were simple. A drone would be released into the wilderness surrounding the summit compound. This wilderness was harsh and dangerous. The terrain was rocky and difficult. Temperatures swung from extremely hot during the day to freezing cold at night. There was little water and no shelter. The drone would fly toward a boundary 200 kilometers away. Delegates had to track it and disable it before it crossed that line. The drone was fast and could navigate difficult terrain easily. It would not stop or rest. Whoever caught the drone, or came closest to catching it, would win the trial. It was considered the greatest honor of the summit. The Crix Athi went first. Their champion was a young female, smaller than most but known for her speed. She was confident as she stepped up to the starting line. The drone was released. It shot forward immediately, racing across the rocky ground. The Crix Athi female gave chase. She was fast. Her legs were powerful, built for sudden bursts of speed. She closed the distance quickly, running at a pace that would have killed most species. For the first 5 kilometers, she gained ground steadily. Then she began to tire. Her muscles burned. Her lungs struggled to pull in enough air. The heat of the day pressed down on her like a weight. By the 10th kilometer, she was slowing. By the 15th, she was struggling to stay upright. At 18 kilometers, she collapsed. Medical teams rushed out to bring her back. She was conscious, but exhausted. Her body had simply run out of energy. Other species tried. The stall managed 12 kilometers before the heat overwhelmed them. The Vorath, despite their great strength, lasted only 9. Their massive bodies needed too much energy to move at high speed. Ambassador Kethral himself entered the trial. He was old but proud, and he wanted to show the humans what a true Deathworlder could achieve. He paced himself carefully, not sprinting but maintaining a steady run. The temperature changes did not bother him much. His armored body protected him from the worst of the environment. He made it 22 kilometers before his body began to fail. The thermal stress was too great. Cracks appeared in his shell. His internal fluids grew dangerously thick. He had to stop or risk permanent damage. As the medical team helped him back, he passed the human delegation. Commander Chun watched him with an expression he could not read. "A very impressive effort, Ambassador," she said. 22 kilometers is remarkable." He said nothing. He was too tired and too angry to respond. By late afternoon, every species had attempted the hunt. None had succeeded. The closest approach was Kethral's 22 kilometers. The drone sat somewhere in the wilderness, powered down and waiting. In all the years of the summit, it had only been caught 3 times. Then Commander Chen approached the judges. "May we try?" she asked. The request was granted immediately. The judges did not even try to hide their amusement. Let the humans fail like everyone else. It would be a fitting end to their visit. 3 humans stepped forward. Chun, the large male named Torres, and a lean woman called Yusuf. They wore simple clothes and carried only water containers. They had no weapons, no special equipment. Nothing that suggested they had any chance at all. The drone was reset and released. It flew forward at high speed, quickly disappearing over the first ridge. The humans did not run after it. They walked. The watching delegates exchanged confused glances. Were the humans giving up already? Were they too afraid to even try? But the humans kept walking. Their pace was steady, neither fast nor slow. They moved together as a group, talking quietly among themselves. They did not seem concerned about the drone's speed or distance. Hours passed. The sun began to set. The temperature dropped sharply. The humans pulled thin sheets from their packs and wrapped them around their bodies. They did not stop walking. Night came. The wilderness grew dark and cold. Most species would have found shelter, would have waited for dawn. The humans kept walking. The observers grew confused, then curious, then fascinated. They set up tracking equipment to follow the humans' progress. The data made no sense. The humans never stopped. They never rested. They just kept moving forward, one step after another. Dawn came. The temperature soared. The humans tied fabric around their heads to protect against the sun. They drank water from their containers. They kept walking. The drone, programmed to maintain a safe distance from any pursuer, kept moving too. But the drone had a problem. It needed to stop occasionally to recharge its power cells. The humans did not stop. Every time the drone paused, the humans gained ground. 30 hours into the hunt, the humans were closer to the drone than any species had ever been. Torres jogged ahead while Chun and Yusuf maintained their walking pace. The drone detected the increased threat and accelerated. Torres fell back to a walk. Yusuf accelerated. The drone fled again. They were taking turns. They were pushing the drone constantly, never letting it rest, never giving it time to recover. At 40 hours, the drone's power reserves were nearly empty. It had been designed to outlast any reasonable pursuit. No species had ever chased it for more than a few hours. It was not built for this. At 41 hours, the drone's power failed completely. It crashed into the sand, 2 kilometers short of the boundary. Torres picked it up. The 3 humans walked back to the compound. They arrived looking tired but functional. Their feet were sore. Their muscles ached. But they were standing. They were conscious. They had just traveled 198 kilometers without stopping, and they were still able to walk. The watching delegates stared in silence. Commander Chun accepted a cup of water from a shocked Stahal attendant. "Thank you," she said. That was refreshing. Ambassador Kethril stepped forward. His mind was struggling to understand what he had just witnessed. How? He demanded, "Your species has no natural advantages. No armor, no venom, no special abilities. How did you do this?" Chun took a long drink of water before answering. "We are persistence predators," she said simply. "On Earth, our ancestors hunted by following prey until it died of exhaustion. We cannot outrun most animals. We cannot outfight them. But we can outlast almost anything." She looked at him with those strange, flat eyes. "We just do not stop." The mood at the summit changed after the persistence hunt. The laughter stopped. The mocking comments disappeared. Delegates who had dismissed the humans as weak and unimportant now watched them with careful, wary eyes. Questions began to spread through the gathering. If humans could do this, what else could they do? What other surprises were hiding behind those soft faces and friendly smiles? On the 4th day of the summit, the traditional exchange of knowledge began. This was a time when species shared information about their homeworlds, their cultures, their histories. Usually, it was a relaxed affair. Species boasted about their achievements and listened politely to others. This year, everyone wanted to hear from the humans. A young Olorim researcher approached Commander Chen during the morning session. The Olorim were made of living crystal, and their bodies caught the light in beautiful ways. This one was pale blue, almost transparent in places. "Commander," the Olorim said, "I have been reading about your planet. The environmental data is concerning. How do humans survive in such varied conditions?" Chum smiled. "Could you be more specific?" "Earth has many different environments. That is exactly what concerns me. Your planet has frozen regions and burning deserts. It has crushing depths of water and thin air on high mountains. The temperature range alone should make complex life impossible. And yet life thrives everywhere on Earth," Chun said, "including humans. We have colonized every biome on the planet. We live in the Arctic cold. We live in tropical heat. We live at sea level and on mountains so high the air is barely breathable." The Olorim's crystalline body flickered with confusion. "But you have no special adaptations. You cannot change your body temperature internally. You cannot grow thicker skin or produce antifreeze proteins. How do you survive these extremes?" "We adapt behaviorally," Chun explained. "In cold places, we make warm clothes and build shelters. In hot places, we find shade and create cooling systems. We change our environment to suit our needs. You change the environment all the time. We have done it for thousands of years. Before we had advanced technology, we used fire. Fire let us survive cold nights, cook food that would otherwise be toxic, and protect ourselves from predators. Fire changed everything for our species. The Olarim made a note in a small device. Fascinating. Please, continue. A stall delegate had been listening nearby. They slithered closer, golden eyes fixed on Chun. I have a question about human biology, the Stahal said. Your species has no natural toxin resistance. How do you survive in an environment full of poisonous plants and venomous creatures? Sometimes we do not survive, Chun admitted. Thousands of humans die from poisoning every year. But we have learned to identify dangerous substances and avoid them. We have also developed medicines to treat many types of poisoning. But surely you cannot treat all poisons. No, not all. But here is something interesting about humans. Chun paused, seeming to consider how to explain. There are some poisons that we deliberately consume for pleasure. The stall's eyes widened. I do not understand. On Earth, there is a plant called the chili pepper. It produces a chemical called capsaicin. This chemical evolved specifically to prevent animals from eating the plant. It causes intense burning pain in the mouth and throat. It can cause sweating, tears, and difficulty breathing. A defensive toxin, the Stahal said. Standard evolutionary strategy. Yes, but humans eat chili peppers constantly. We add them to almost every type of food. We have competitions to see who can eat the hottest peppers. We find the burning sensation enjoyable. The stall stared at her in what could only be described as horror. You deliberately consume a substance that causes pain. For enjoyment? Yes, we also drink caffeine, which is a pesticide that plants produce to kill insects. And alcohol, which is literally a metabolic poison. We have social gatherings centered around consuming alcohol together. Your species is insane. Possibly, Chun agreed cheerfully. But it works for us. Word of these conversations spread quickly. More delegates came to ask questions. The Krixathi wanted to know about human healing abilities. You cannot regenerate limbs, the Krixathi representative said. It was a statement, not a question. I have confirmed this in my research. If a human loses an arm, it is gone forever. That is correct, Chun said. We cannot regrow lost body parts naturally. Then how do you survive serious injuries? A species that cannot heal from major wounds should have died out long ago. We developed a practice called surgery. Surgery? When a human is badly injured, or when something inside their body stops working correctly, we cut them open. While they are still alive, we use tools to reach inside their body, fix what is broken, and then close the wound. The human usually recovers. The Krixathi went very still. You cut yourselves open? On purpose? While alive? Yes, we have been doing it for thousands of years. At first it was very dangerous and many patients died. Now it is quite safe and routine. We can replace hearts, repair brains, remove damaged organs, and substitute artificial ones. You replace organs? When necessary. If a human's heart fails, we can give them a new one from a donor or install a mechanical pump. If their kidneys stop working, we can connect them to a machine that cleans their blood for them. If their eyes fail, we are working on electronic replacements. Torres stepped up beside Chun. We also deliberately break bones sometimes. Every nearby delegate turned to look at him. What? The Krixathi managed. If a bone heals incorrectly, it can cause pain and disability. So our doctors break it again, set it properly, and let it heal the right way. We do the same thing with other injuries. Sometimes the best way to fix a problem is to make it worse first, then guide the healing process. The Krixathi looked like they wanted to leave, but could not look away. Your species deliberately harms itself to promote healing? When necessary, Torres confirmed. We have a saying, if it does not kill you, it makes you stronger. We believe in that deeply. Ambassador Kethral had been listening from a distance. He could not stay silent any longer. Your planet, he said, stepping forward. The reports say it has megafauna, large predators, creatures that hunt and kill other animals. How did your species survive against them? You have no armor, no claws, no natural weapons at all. Commander Chun turned to face him. Her expression was calm, but something flickered in her eyes. We made tools, she said. Tools? She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal object. Several delegates stepped back. It was a knife, a simple folding blade attached to a handle. Nothing impressive by galactic standards. But the way she held it, the practiced ease with which it appeared in her hand, sent a chill through the watching crowd. We are toolmakers, Chun explained. Everything we lack, we create. We cannot grow claws, so we make knives. We cannot grow armor, so we make shields and walls. We cannot produce venom, so we make poisons and weapons. She folded the knife away. On Earth, humans did not just survive the megafauna, Ambassador. We hunted them. We drove most of them to extinction. The ones that remain, we keep in protected areas because we felt guilty about killing so many. She paused. We also keep some as pets. Pets? Kethral did not recognize the word. Companions. Animals that live with us, that we care for. Some of these were once predators. Wolves, for example. Pack hunters capable of killing prey many times their size. We took them into our homes. We bred them over generations. Now they sleep in our beds and play with our children. You domesticated apex predators? Many of them. Cats, horses, cattle, birds. We take wild creatures and reshape them over time. We breed for traits we want. We make them into what we need. Chun smiled that unsettling smile. We are very good at it. The hall had gone completely silent. There is one more thing you should know, Chun added. Humans were not the only intelligent species on Earth. Once, there were many kinds of humans. Different species, different abilities. Some were stronger than us. Some had larger brains. She looked around at the gathered delegates. We are the only ones left. The silence stretched on. No one seemed to know what to say. Finally, Kethral spoke. His voice was quiet. What happened to the others? Commander Chun met his eyes. We happened. The final night of the summit arrived. As tradition demanded, a great feast was prepared. All 24 species would gather one last time to share food and drink. They would celebrate their shared heritage as survivors of impossible worlds. They would honor the bonds formed during their time together. But the atmosphere this year was different. The other Deathworld species sat in small groups, speaking in low voices. They kept glancing at the human delegation, then looking away quickly when they were noticed. The comfortable pride that usually filled the hall was gone. Something else had taken its place. Something that looked very much like fear. The humans seemed not to notice. They moved freely around the room, talking to whoever would speak with them. They smiled and laughed and asked friendly questions. They looked exactly as they had on the first day, soft and harmless and kind. But now everyone knew better. Ambassador Kethral sat at the head table, watching Commander Chun work the room. She was good at this, he realized. She made everyone feel comfortable and important. She remembered names and asked about details from earlier conversations. She seemed genuinely interested in every species she spoke with. It was masterful diplomacy. It was also deeply unsettling. After some time, Chun made her way to his table. She sat down across from him, still wearing that warm smile. "Ambassador," she said, "may I join you? It seems you already have." True, she did not seem bothered by his cold tone. "I wanted to speak with you before the summit ends. I feel we have things to discuss." Catherall studied her. In the days since the persistence hunt, he had done extensive research on humans. What he had learned kept him awake at night. "You knew," he said quietly, "when you came here, when you accepted our invitation. You knew what you would show us." Chung considered the question. "We suspected you had some incorrect ideas about our species." "Incorrect ideas?" "Your invitation was not friendly, Ambassador. We received it. We understood what you meant by it." She picked up a piece of food from the table and examined it before eating. "You thought we were weak. You wanted to teach us our place. You wanted to show us that we were not equal to the great Deathworld species. And you came anyway. We came because of that, not despite it. Why?" Chung leaned back in her chair. For a moment, her friendly mask slipped. The creature underneath was not angry or hostile. It was patient. It was calculating. It was something that had learned to wait for what it wanted. "Because we wanted you to understand," she said. "Truly understand. Not from reports or data or distant observation. We wanted you to see us up close, to watch us perform, to realize what you were looking at. And what are we looking at? A species that does not stop, ever. We cannot regrow limbs like the Krixathi, so we invented surgery and prosthetics. We cannot survive in vacuum like the Veluxi, so we built ships and suits that let us walk in space. We cannot dissolve metal with venom like the Stahl, so we created acids and weapons that do the same thing." She leaned forward. "Every ability you showed us, Ambassador, we can replicate with technology. Every advantage you have, we can match or exceed with tools and determination. You evolve to survive. We evolve to overcome." Catherall felt cold inside his shell. "You are saying we should fear you?" "No." Chung shook her head firmly. "That is exactly what I am not saying. Fear would be reasonable, but it would be a mistake. For both of us? Then what do you want?" "Alliance." The word hung in the air between them. "We came here to make friends, Ambassador. Not to frighten you. Not to prove we are better. We came because the galaxy is vast and full of dangers that none of our species have encountered yet. We came because survival is easier together than alone." She gestured at the gathered delegates, still huddled in their worried groups. "Look at them. The toughest species from the harshest worlds in known space. Every one of them has survived things that would destroy most life forms. Every one of them has something valuable to offer. And every one of them is now afraid of humans because they finally understand what we are. Can you blame them? No, but I can ask them to think past their fear, to see the opportunity instead of the threat." Catherall was silent for a long moment. He thought about everything he had learned. The persistence hunting, the tool use, the surgery, the domestication of predators, the extinction of rival species, the relentless, unstoppable nature of human determination. He thought about what humans might become in a century, in 1,000 years, with their endless drive to improve, to adapt, to overcome any obstacle. He thought about having them as enemies. Then he thought about having them as friends. "What exactly are you offering?" he asked finally. Chun smiled. This time, it did not seem quite so threatening. "Everything we are. Humans share freely with our allies. Technology, medicine, ideas, resources. We believe in cooperation. We believe that helping others helps ourselves. The strongest alliances are built on mutual benefit. And in return, the same from you. Your species have abilities we cannot replicate. Knowledge we do not have. Perspectives we have never considered. Together, we would be stronger than any of us alone. Deathworld thought about the pride of the Veluxi. His people had spent millennia believing they were among the greatest Deathworld species. They had looked down on others. They had never considered that a soft, clawless, armorless species might surpass them in the most important way. Humans did not just survive. They refused to accept any limit. They saw every obstacle as a problem to be solved, every weakness as a challenge to overcome. They had conquered their own planet and were now reaching for the stars. They would not stop. Ever. "I need to speak with the other delegates," he said slowly. "This is not a decision I can make alone." "Of course." Chun nodded. "Take all the time you need. We are patient." Something about the way she said patient made him shiver. He stood and walked among the other delegates. He spoke to the Krixathi and the Stahl, the Ularim and the Vorth. He shared what Chun had told him. He watched their faces as they processed the offer. Fear was still there, but something else was growing beside it. Hope, perhaps, or simple practicality. They were all survivors. They understood the value of allies. One by one, they agreed to consider the proposal. Kethril returned to Chun's table. She was waiting patiently, as she had said she would. "The Deathworld Coalition," he said. "That is what we call ourselves. 23 species united by shared heritage and mutual respect. 24 now," Chun said quietly. Double quotes, yes. 24. He picked up his drinking glass. "You were right about one thing, Commander. We did invite you here to teach you your place. We thought we knew what that place was. And now? Now, I understand that your place is wherever you decide it should be. And we would rather have you decide to stand beside us than against us." He raised his glass. "To cooperation," he said, "and to correcting errors." Commander Chun raised her own glass. Her smile was warm and genuine, and still showed those small, flat teeth that had once seemed so harmless. "To cooperation," she agreed. "And to new friends." They drank together. Around them, the atmosphere in the hall began to shift. Fear slowly transformed into cautious optimism. Delegates who had been avoiding the humans began to approach them. Conversations started. Questions were asked. Answers were given. It would take time. Trust was not built in a single night, but the foundation had been laid. Later, as the feast wound down and delegates began to leave, Kethril found himself standing beside Commander Chen one last time. "I have one more question," he said. "If you will permit it, of course. You said there used to be other human species, that yours was the only one that survived." He hesitated. "If you had met them today, those other humans, would you have made the same offer? Cooperation instead of competition?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. "I would like to think so," she finally said. "We have grown since then. We have learned the value of working together. We have seen what happens when we treat others as threats instead of potential friends." She looked at him with those strange, unreadable eyes. "The greatest lesson our history taught us is this: we are stronger when we lift others up instead of pushing them down. We are safer when we make allies instead of enemies. We survive best when we help others survive too." She held out her hand, a human gesture of friendship. "We will not make the same mistakes with you, Ambassador. You have my word." Kethril looked at her hand. Small, soft, harmless looking. The hand of a species that had walked across continents, hunted megafauna to extinction, conquered their planet, and reached for the stars. The hand of a persistence predator that never stopped, never gave up, never accepted defeat. He took it. "Then let us begin," he said. And in that moment, the Deathworld Coalition grew stronger than it had ever been. The error of the invitation had been corrected, not by undoing it, but by transforming it into something better. The humans had come to the summit to be humiliated. Instead, they had made friends. They were very good at that too.